stuff in their refrigerators anyway, or their pantries or that kind of thing. So when I was cooking in a commercial kitchen, we used to use...
You're on, Jason.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. When I was cooking in a commercial kitchen, there would be times we would have to improvise. And you had to learn quickly, on the go, what did you have, what went together, and what didn't go together. And I worked in a kitchen at a restaurant in Lexington for 3 years as a sous chef, under a pastry chef. So I'm more of a dessert person than I am an entree person. And so it was a husband and wife that owned the restaurant, and I worked with the wife. She was the pastry chef, but the husband didn't like the fact that she was sort of hoarding me into the pastry side. So every other Sunday, I worked on the entree side, like plating and cooking and all this kind of thing. And come from an Italian background, come from a farm background. My grandmother, my mama, I think you all were in here for this. That's my dad's mother. I learned from her. Because my mom's mother, who was the Italian grandmother, passed away when I was young. So, but I have, that's that paint again. I have all her recipes written on envelopes stuck in a book somewhere that just says you just need meat and cheese and this and that and you cook it. And there's no time, there's no temperature. So that's how she grew up eating. But I never reinvent the wheel. If you have spaghetti sauce at home, please use, if you make your own, use that. If you don't like cheese, don't use cheese. If you don't like, any of this stuff, this is not anything that's hard and fast. This is just how I learned to make it on the fly. This was what I called my 10-minute lasagna because that's how long I had to figure out how to make lasagna one time. I had 10 minutes to figure out how to. I said, what do we have? Wow. What do we have in the freezers? What do we have in the pantry? Because they put lasagna on the menu and didn't order the lasagna noodles. So it just became, we had to change it from lasagna to ragu. So if that ever comes up on, a ragu is a lasagna with no noodles in it. So, it's very simple, very basic. I don't do anything weird or out of the ordinary, but you will need an onion, we'll need garlic, whatever sauce you like. This is just, and I church this up. I'm going to add stuff to this, so it's not just, it's out of the jar. But it's only because I didn't have 12 hours to make it, and I couldn't find fresh tomatoes. I make my own spaghetti sauce, but usually in the spring, not right now. Sorry. But yeah.
Do you make it in canning?
I make it, and I have a friend of mine that has a pressure that does the canning. I let her do it because I'm afraid to do it in my little apartment because if it blows up, I'm responsible for everybody on both sides of me and myself. She lives in a house. So I'll just let her have it. But I just use a plain spaghetti sauce. If you want more vegetables in it, they make the stuff that's got like chunky, like the vegetables. You can add frozen vegetables. Just thaw them in the microwave for about 2 minutes before you add them to your sauce so that you're not throwing ice cold. Because that will slow down the cooking of your sauce. And then the only other tricks I ever tell people is I know everybody's trying to eat healthy, trying to watch what they eat and all that kind of thing. Never get anything that's 99% fat-free or low-fat. You can, but it will sometimes sacrifice the quality of what you're making. So low-fat ricotta cheese is like 50% water. Mm-hmm. So when you go to... It doesn't usually make that
really
much
dramatic.
I don't cut corners when it comes to the quality of things, but the brand, I'm only picky about brands of certain things. Mayonnaise, it's always Duke's mayonnaise. It'll never be anything but Duke's mayonnaise. Duke's.
I've never had.
You're not originally from like North Carolina, South Carolina. That's where it's coastal. Oh. And I discovered it in college, and but spaghetti sauces, like I said, I'm going to add stuff to the spaghetti sauce to change the taste or to sort of church it up, we call it. And then everything else, you're good to go. You can use whatever you want, any kind of cheese you want or anything like that. But the great thing about Italian food is it's taste and stir, taste and stir, taste and stir. One thing that I will tell you all is, well, that knife would cut hot butter. Let's see if I can find a knife. Spray it, see if that's any better. note to self, pray in obvious. But it taste and stir, and you can do lower fat, but you need the fat in it to cook the food appropriately enough, especially layered foods like this, because foods cook from the bottom up. Even though they're heated, they cook from the bottom to the top. So when you're making a lasagna or anything that's layered like that, make sure that your bottom layer and your top layer are your thickest layers. Stuff in the center, it's all going to come together anyway. So if you put all the good stuff on the top and the bottom, it will sink and rise. I learned that.
Bottom layer and your top layer.
Should be your thicker layers, because it's going to settle and the food's going to heat up, so it's going to rise and settle at the same time, and they're going to meet in the middle. That's why when we get ready to do the ricotta part, you only ever put the ricotta mixture in the center of your lasagna. You don't put it on every level. Always in the center. Or at least that's how I learned to do it. Now, this is my favorite one. I got this for Christmas and I love this thing. Hold on to your hat.
What happened?
Sounds like a
it's
firework
nice.
just went off.
Yeah, just takes a good slap.
Does that have an official name to it?
It's a slap chopper.
Slapinator.
That's what they call it on Amazon.
Slapinator.
Okay, I'm done.
I like that.
Slapinator.
Wow.
And there's 4 or 5 different things that come with that. That one's a dice. There's one that's chopped. It's got a mandolin built into it. I think it was like $20 on Amazon. So pretty nice to have something. I didn't use chocolate. I'll send you the link on Amazon for the one that I requested. Now, another trick that I learned too, if you're using a lower fat, so this is 93.7 ground beef. You can use turkey, you can use any meat that you want, but try to get something that's got some fat in it. I would never go any lower than 93.7. It'll stop if I put something in. 90-10 is ideal. And you can get ground turkey. You can get ground chicken, and that has fat built into it. And that comes in good because with the lower fat content, you don't have to drain this off when you cook it. You can cook it without having to drain it off because it doesn't add hardly any fat. If you can't find anything or you want to cook light or cook healthier, you can get the 99% fat-free, but you're going to need to add some fat to it. Normally I add olive oil. I forgot it, so we're going to have to use a little great though. But you're going to want to cook your meat last. You'll cook the vegetables first, saute them, and then add the meat because there's not going to be any fat in there to help cook the vegetables. So if you cook your meat first, it's going to be dry. And the longer you cook it, the drier it gets. And this is all this is just really weird things that I learned. Stuff I've learned. So I have a question. When should you add seasonings to your food?
Each step.
At each step. But your fragrant stuff, like this, like your Italian seasonings, salt, you need salt every time. But stuff like this, what are called light seasonings, like Italian seasonings or herb Provence or anything like that, you add that toward the end because the oils will cook out of them and you'll lose the taste. Plus, if you drain it off, you're going to pour that flavor out.
Oh, wow. You did say, right? He was convinced.
You need a commission.
No, but you know what?
Suddenly they'll be like, there was a rush of orders.
telling them earlier this morning about almost 9 o'clock last night. I was sitting in my chair and thought, it takes an hour for this thing to cook. I'm not going to have them sit there for 2 hours. And so I got up at 9 o'clock almost 9 o'clock, ran to Banks Market and bought. So there's another lasagna in here that's done.
You are so good. It's just like, I mean, that is a Food Network sequel. You already have it made. It's just for you.
TV smart. That is smart.
So now you don't have to wait.
Yay.
Otherwise, it would be quite a long time.
Martha Stewart has nothing like me.
And then, really, at this point, there's nothing fancy that happens here. You kind of brown up your beef. I'm going to do the onion first. Now, I will tell you all in advance, I don't salt much because I super taste salt. So for me, everything is too salty. It doesn't matter if it has salt in it or not. So I add a little here and there. I am never offended if anybody feels the need to add salt to something that never bothers me, because I know that everybody's got different tastes and flavors and stuff.
My grandma taught me this really neat trick to make really good pasta sauce. So you buy just like a can of tomato sauce, and you put some sugar in it. It actually tastes really good.
That's sugar.
Yeah. Just a little bit of sugar.
Sugar makes things get hot too. You all find that?
What did you say?
If you get something too spicy, if you add a little sugar, it comes it down.
That's why a lot of my grandmother used to add some sugar to her arrabbiata sauce to take the heat out of it. She would use what did she use? I think she used cayenne pepper in hers. And I mean, like, it would be so hot your eyes would water
Yeah.
from other parts of the house. And she would then, after she would start making this huge vats of this sauce and stuff, she would add like a cup of sugar. And I can always remember just thinking to myself, it's going to set my head on fire. You know, good.
What I do is this is completely uncouth, but I keep one of those squirt bottles of Welch's grape jelly in the fridge, and instead of sugar, I just use a little bit of a little squirt of grape jelly, and that takes the head off of the tomato sauce.
Oh, that has sugar in it.
There's a little sugar in it. You don't taste it. It just adds a little lime.
Yeah.
It's just enough of that sugar to take the heat out of it. Yeah.
Uncle Brandon would definitely, if he do that, Uncle Brandon would definitely add sugar to your chili.
Yeah.
I put sugar in my chili too. Not much. But aside from Central Illinois, we put sugar in everything. All our vegetables have sugar in it.
I wrote good sugar and everything.
Yeah.
And very little salt. My mom had blood pressure, so we did do a
Oh, no, I mean, it's just,
So I'm used to
that side. This side's fine.
Yeah,
It's just
I
that side over there.
Jason, how do you feel about jarred garlic as opposed
Fresh
to
is best, but I cook with so much garlic so frequently, and I bought this Tuesday. I bought this Tuesday.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I mean, normally I would just buy garlic and I would,
do you use
grate it.
more? Because supposedly,
Well, so a teaspoon is about the same as one clove of garlic, but what was it, a phrase of mine somebody told me one time? I do garlic until my ancestors tell me to stop. Do you hear the call of your ancestors?
You're like, no, please, it's enough.
But no, I don't. I'm not a huge garlic. Like I will put enough in there to flavor it. But I mean, who was it? Emerald used to put so much. I mean, he would just garlic. I thought that's got to taste like
garlic.
feet. But everybody has a different taste. So
Thank you.
that spice blend right there. We came up with that at the restaurant that I used to work at all the time. It is a container of onion powder, a container of garlic powder, a container of paprika, 3 tablespoons of salt, and 4 tablespoons of black pepper.
That's what my go-to as well, truthfully.
I use it for everything. You're welcome to. It doesn't have. And I've used smoked paprika in the past. Just dump it all in a big ball jar. And
It's actually pretty good.
How does that compare to that famous one, Five Spices?
the Five Spice is is that the one that's got like they use for jerk chicken and stuff like that, or is that something different?
Well, it's got a little bit of anise in it.
Okay.
So if you don't like licorice,
Yeah. That's what I have a baking spice that I use that's got anise and not much, but I mean, you can smell it when you're cooking with it.
Jason,
Man,
what do you do now? Do you cook now? Or,
only for myself. I work from home,
oh, okay.
so I used to help. There was a friend of mine who lived in Nashville. I lived in Nashville. She owned like a food prep company.
Okay.
And I would go over there and help, we would do all that kind of stuff. But I knew a long time, like way far back, that I was not a type of person that wanted to cook for a living. I like doing it for fun. Yeah. And I learned a lot. I worked for, like part-time for different catering companies and all that kind of
So
stuff.
what kind of work do you do?
I do, it's the easiest way to explain what I do for a living. I do contract arbitration for a hospital, HCA, for HCA. And my job is to make sure that the insurance company pays per contract what they say they're supposed to pay, so that the patient doesn't get stuck with the bill, and the hospital doesn't end up getting,
Okay.
snowed over. And it's kind of an interesting position. I didn't start off with the company doing that, but I never deal with another person. I deal with paper all day long and email. I never talk to another person.
That's got benefits on there.
Well, it does, but it gets very lonely when you work from home. So at the end,
So outgoing.
and it's funny because at the end of the day, most people are like, I've got to go. I can't. I'm done with that. I'm sick of people on that kind of. I'm like, ooh, people. Everyone said, ooh, it's nice to go out and have stuff to do, people. So that's from Gallic.
Well, it's another position, and I really appreciate that. She just had a big argument with an insurance company. We want to cover her patient that she had put on oxygen.
You mean the ones that are like right in front of my face and I'm looking through the cabinet?
That was the doctor. That's not your fault. That's why we know we got
There's this one thing called garlic, and I like to go around. Ooh,
Well, what really is
something
over
with garlic.
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 I was there. They were not wanting to cover it.
Please, nobody tell my grandmother that I'm using sauce. She'll roll over in her grave. My mom used to say, she can see you. I'm like, no, she can't in the kitchen.
No.
She can see me everywhere else. She cannot see me in the
You're
kitchen.
blind or something.
I'm just going to add this whole jar.
Now she doesn't now get rid of the jar, and now she doesn't know it's from a jar.
That'll work. Yeah. Expensive.
Just try to get it all over there.
Always rinse the jars.
First obstetrician in Greece.
That was so interesting. Wow. I thought that was awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing.
I sent it to Rachel too. She's even said she's on your Facebook.
I sabotage myself and threw the lid away. Shame on me.
Now she'll never know it's from a jar.
I hope not.
Okay. Marjorie.
Wash my hands.
Sure, yeah. You're, oh, pass this one on.
Ah. Now, dried herbs. Anybody have a mortar and pestle in their house? So do you crush your dried herbs before you throw them in?
No.
You not? You just toss them in? I learned a trick a long time ago. I don't have a mortar and pestle, but I have a hand and a thumb. And what I learned to do, what you're doing here, they say that you're activating the oil in the dried spices.
And I'm pretty sure that's true because
So-
just as you did that, it just.
Better.
So, Italian seasoning has a couple of things in it that's not normally found in it. Sage and marjoram, oregano, thyme, and rosemary. If you have those or grow those are your Italian spices. Sage, there's not much in there. And then you press down. I'm going to add about a tablespoon and a half of this Italian seasoning in here with some more salt and pepper. We're going to cook that up. Is it starting to smell like anything in here? Because this is the second time today I've made this and I don't smell anything. I just want to make sure it smells like something.
I'm starting to smell it, and I have a stuffed up nose.
Yeah, I do.
You can smell it all the way to Fletcher Hall.
Can you really?
Yeah, you walk down the hall and go, whoa!
I almost came in here and put the lasagna in when we started the service because I knew it would be done about the time I was coming back here to start prepping. And I thought, if I do that and it really gets fragrant, that gets into the church. I don't want a bunch of people to.
The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit
I want there to be a
lasagna.
run on the kitchen.
The Holy Spirit of lasagna.
Now, everybody's particular about stuff. I'm not too particular. I get the oven-ready lasagna noodles. Yes. Now, a long time ago when they first started making these things, these weren't the best because they wouldn't cook very well. But Berea makes one. They're shorter. They're about this long, and they don't have the ridges in them. And then this is the Kroger brand, but they're any kind of brand. I use these instead. And I found, and a bunch of us playing around in the kitchen one day, sometimes people would be like, well, they never cooked around the edges, or they never cooked all the way through, or they never, did this and did this kind of thing. What we found out was, a lot of people, when they do lasagna noodles, they stick them as close as they can to each other. They try to cram as many of them in as they can, and then you'll run one across the bottom. And a 9 by 13, I do 3 across. Yep. And now the burrito ones are shorter, so you can run them this way, but I still only do maybe 4. Because when my grandmother would make her lasagna, there were very few noodles in the lasagna. It was just enough to be able to mark this is layer 1, this is layer 2. But I've had other lasagnas too, and it's not wrong. It's just everybody makes it a little bit different. Where there's you cut into it, it's just noodles. And I'm like, holy cow! But I mean, everybody has different, different ways of doing things. But if you follow on the back, it says cook them at 375. I cook them at 350. Just because. No, you put them in there just like this, and they cook all the way through. You hopefully. Now watch out, please don't make a liar out of me, because every time I say, oh, it's great, it's perfect, and it's like crunch. We'll hope that that's not what happened. But,
That's an whole step. We don't have to deal with all this. I don't know what's snacks. And with nice flavor. I thought it was. Maybe some stuff in there.
Not the definitely effective ways. We found that out once a year. Your smell and very effective taste.
well, the fun thing about using a jar of sauce is, once you put your spices and stuff like that in there, I just turn the heat off and let it sit there for about 5 minutes. Just let the heat sort of settle out of it because the meat's already in there. saying ricotta is fine with everybody? Okay. Some people like it, some people don't. Please don't use cottage cheese. If you like it, you like it. It's just, I'd rather use ricotta. Nothing wrong.
A lot of people use it for the texture.
It's supposedly a lower fat option, but cottage cheese has a lot of water in it. And so when you use cottage cheese, you have to squeeze out basically all you're left with is just curd. You have to squeeze as much of that water out as you can. So this is the ricotta mixture that I make. It's about 1.5 cloves of garlic. It's a full jar of full fat ricotta cheese. Add a little bit of Italian seasoning. A little, maybe a teaspoon or so. A little bit of pepper and a little bit of, this is not necessary, I just added in there, but no salt. I don't add salt in other times. Yes, just a little bit, which is really nothing more than just a little bit.
There's already salt.
Yeah, I don't add, at this point, I don't add any more salt. Like I said, for me, it's all going to taste salty. So I stop because the last thing I want to do is over salt my food. And an egg. Eggs are binding agents and raising agents. But in this particular case, it's a binding agent. That's the same reason why people put eggs in meatloaf. Don't stick together so it doesn't fall apart. Well, I should have brought some of my farm fresh eggs.
I was going to say, wait a minute, I saw a much
Yeah.
better looking egg on your Facebook.
So a friend of mine's son, they have hens, and apparently they have been overproducing eggs, which is I thought unusual for chickens in the winter months, but
And also with the bird flu.
right. But yeah, he was selling eggs, and so I'll take 2 dozen.
How do his prices compare to the grocery store prices?
I bought 3 dozen eggs for less than what I paid for a dozen eggs at Kroger.
Then you gotta tell us the name of your friend.
I'm going to actually talk. I haven't spoken with him, but I'm going to talk. His mom and I were, we've been friends since we were in kindergarten. I'm going to talk to her and see if he wants me to, because I'd be more than happy to promote his business. I told her, I said, I'm not trying to get him to jack his prices up, but he can charge a smidge more. And still come in way cheaper. 'Cause I mean,
Well,
okay.
talk to the hens.
Right, you should have cooperated.
Right. They've got, I want to say they have something like 35, 40 chickens.
Oh, wow.
They have a whole bunch of chickens. Comments, feel free to. There's the sauce.
That's really good.
And like I said, it's not fancy. And then I got this, I saw this, and I have used this before. It's got Parmesan, Romano, and Asiago cheeses in it. I personally don't use mozzarella cheese when I make a lasagna. You can if you want to. I don't like to take mozzarella
Well,
cheese.
it's sweet.
It can be, yeah. I know that's supposed to be a big reveal, but I don't have anywhere else to put it, so I have to sit it there. But that's going to be the finished product. So at this point, we're down to the easy part. This fillet. Now, typically, what do most people put on the bottom? Noodles. I've had so many lasagnas with noodles on the bottom of them, and they're like, they're always so tough. No, direct heat. Which is awesome. So you're going to notice that I'm going to use a lot of sauce on the bottom, not much in the middle, and then more on top. When I say a lot of sauce, I'm not talking like 7, but probably more. Shoes. Mm-hmm. Now, I know a lot of people that like to put like garlic powder. That you can season this however you want. Season it however you like. Some people like to put like garlic powder or garlic salt or even Parmesan cheese in. This is at this point where however you want to do it. Layer it however you like.
Make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
You do you.
Yep, you do you. You know I do. Now see if I crank that, see how they overlap? You can do that, but then you run the risk of one of these not cooking. So I just leave a little bit of space, because like I said, these noodles are going to expand as they cook some anyway. And I just put one across the bottom down here. Again, that's just like a demarcation line. I think that's probably better line. And a little bit of sauce. Probably maybe 1-inch layer full on the second level. You don't need a whole lot. Because there's plenty on the bottom, there'll be plenty on the top, which will cook down into the noodles as you do it. And this is where you'll add that's okay, they don't. I can use a spoon or something or spatulas. I'll just use that. I'll just use it.
Do you have these? These are metal.
Some of those expensive.
I'll just use this. I just need something to scrape this out real good. And I've seen people do dollops. You can do dollops.
Doesn't matter.
Almost
Presentation
like
comes
a-
second. Taste first.
It's almost like sort of a cheese vegetable
So you're putting it all
in the center. Yep. This ricotta cheese goes in the center. I've always put it in the center, and I don't add it anywhere else. But if you feel like you would like to, go right ahead. I'm certainly never going to say that's wrong, unless you're cooking collard greens and you don't put salt in your collard. That's wrong.
Now we know.
Now you know. You have to put salt in your collard greens. That's wrong.
At least in your book.
Right. Not a good recipe for the lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
A lot of cheese.
Cheese on cheese on cheese.
In fact, we missed. So did this one. Straight edge.
And these are just regular.
No, these
Lasagna
are
noodles?
oven ready lasagna
Oven
noodles.
ready, okay.
Yeah, you just kind of
I've heard of no bake.
probably a very similar kind of thing. No boil and some kind of stuff. And then last level, there's about I don't know all of this left. You can add 2 more levels if you want. I usually just do like 2 or 3 at most.
That is a lot of sauce.
And you can get seriously?
Uh-oh.
They cut you short.
This was theirs.
Well, that was when I had my hands all over. I'm certainly not going to use that one. That's all right. Just make it 2 levels. That one's 3. That one right there, that's 3. So we can make that our last one.
2 levels Well, all we care about is if it tastes good.
It smells really good. I can smell it all the way down the church hallway.
You can smell it all the way down. That was one of the reasons I didn't start baking it before we started church. I thought if I do that,
The Holy Spirit of garlic and Italian seasoning.
Communion would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Can I have seconds?
They'd leave the
Something
communion.
smells really good.
They'd leave the communion rail and go right to the kitchen.
We're not going to the kitchen. We're going back to the pews.
Cover
So,
with aluminum foil, which we didn't have, but I had them.
Oh, there you
So
go.
you stick it in the oven covered for about 40 minutes, uncovered for 20. So that the cheese on the top gets checked at 350. And it takes, like I said, it takes about an hour to cook. So, at the beginning, we have that. Still hot, be careful. Don't hurt yourself.
This is the best part of the class. Well, other than you teaching us, but
I usually let them sit, this is just a personal preference, I let my lasagna sit for about 20 minutes before. So when you cut into it, you're not dragging. Alright, let's see if we can find out.
Yeah. What's on this side? Spanish over there.
So depending on personal preferences, you can do it 4, 1, 4, 6, 8, 12 servings out of it. And all together, the ground beef and so everything here together, when I purchased it all, this was just a little over $15.
15?
15.
Wow, that's great.
And unfortunately, like a fourth of that was the ground beef. Everything else was pretty cheap, but the ground beef was the 60. But you can use ground turkey. Like I said, just look for something that's got some fat content in it. And if you can't find anything but lower, whatever, you add your fat back in. Add the whole milk ricotta. Add full fat cheese, all that kind of stuff. Because do we want healthy? Sure, there's nothing wrong with healthy food. I mean, it's not going to taste any different, but the healthier things are, the more expensive they are, which is sad. Fresh produce is way more expensive than canned or frozen.
You would think it would be
The other way around.
for the process of canning. Yeah.
But flash frozen is better than canned. So the frozen vegetables that you get, there's nothing, they're just flash frozen. They're stuck in, I think, liquid nitrogen, and it flash freezes them. And it's the same as fresh. You can put them in a steamer on your stove or stick them in the microwave for a couple of minutes, and it actually brings them back to life. And next week, when I make chili, I'm a weirdo. I don't put beans in my chili.
Texas.
Except when I serve it. And the reason I don't put beans in the chili when I cook it is because you cook them to death, and then over the course of time they disintegrate into the. And some people will put spaghetti in theirs too, which is personal preference. But if you put it in there and leave it, it's mush. So I'm weird when I cook like that, because that's just stuff that when you work in a commercial kitchen, you don't think about at your house. It's like, no. If you put spaghetti noodles in that, if we put that in the refrigerator overnight, we serve it again tomorrow for lunch, we can't serve that. I've never thought about it before. You know, at my house, there's no such thing as leftover chili. But in a restaurant, they make huge vats of this stuff. If you put black beans are the worst. Because they're so small, when they put them in the canning solution and all this kind of thing, they're already really soft. And so if you have black beans to chili, you don't add them until you're literally serving it. Pour them in, stir it around, serve the chili. Yeah, and now if they're uncooked, you can. But if they're canned, yep.
I ever worked in like a fancy restaurant, I'm gonna have to make sure every recipe can be made leftovers. Because with me, if we go to somewhere fancy, I will always have leftovers.
This is how you tell if it's cool enough to cut it. See how I drag? Nothing comes with a knife. Same way with cake.
Oh.
Anything hot, if it's too hot and you drag like that and it pulls, it's still too hot. Oh, that's what I started. I said, there's all kinds of stuff that you learn in a commercial kitchen. Like, I never thought of that before. Of course, it also helps to have a nice sharp knife to open up that one.
It's all. It won't change the taste.
I know, right?
Annabelle, come here, girl.
Is that your dog?
These aluminum pans, they're handy.
Wow. Very nice, Jason.
I'm not going to serve the ghoul. The ghoul is the corner. G-O-H-U-L. It's a Italian word that means end. Ghoul. The heel. Sometimes you'll hear it.
I've never heard it called that
Same
before.
thing. That's the term. It's called the ghoul.
Yeah, I don't like the quarter pieces.
Spell it again, just like,
It's kind of like
Like
the
a
ghost.
ghoul.
Yeah, G-H-O-U-L.
ooh, I can use that.
I'm out. Dang. That'll be mine.
That looks pretty delicious.
You start in the
In
middle.
the middle. Normally,
I
it's
forgot
still
to do-
really, really hot. Cut it
I
just
start
sort
on
of.
the edges.
Yeah. Dig down.
Start.
Yeah, that's how my aunt does it. And so on Tuesdays, when
You know why I start in the
we
middle?
go to dinner,
It's just the best part.
I always wait until she's finished.
That's what I like too, Jason.
Now, that's how.
Except for brownies.
Brownies, yes. I have
Oh,
I
well
put
then,
on
yes.
a piece of corned piece.
You know, I like
the
getting
middle.
that part.
No, I want the middle with some ice cream on top, and it's all
Yes.
gooey and
Oh yeah.
Get rid of the corner.
Look at that cheese. Mm.
And you know,
Everybody streaming right now is wishing they were here.
Like, no.
Can Jason make our lunch? Jason, this is wonderful.
I hope it tastes good. Keep my head out of the
How
stove.
much do you think this costs?
What's that?
The whole unit?
Like what I just. No, you want to? It costs about $15 with all of it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a few servings.
Yeah.
Good size.
Depending on, like how much you want to eat and all that kind of stuff. And yes, I do make my own pasta from time to time.
you live on a whole rolling machine.
Hand cranked.
Yeah.
That attaches to the corner of my cooking cabinet that belonged to my great grandmother.
You live in a little bit of house with that gigantic kitchen.
Well, it's really kind of funny. My apartment is relatively small. Like the living room is obviously the largest room. My 2 bedrooms are not too bad, but the kitchen is twice the size of my living room. Yeah, what I'm thinking is that part of my apartment I think used to be a garage, and they enclosed it in. At some point, they enclosed it in. I think because you can see if you walk around the side of the building, you can see an outline. And like this used to be, it had to be.
Blaine, you want some?
There's plenty. There's another one coming out of the oven here.
Well, let's say a blessing and thank God for Jason and oh, most holy God, we thank you for this wonderful lasagna and Jason's skill in teaching us a little bit more about how to make a nutritious lasagna on the cheap. Bless it and help and bless all those who are with us today in person and online. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Did Blaine say yes?
Yes.
Green salad, if you want green beans. If you went to school like I did, every time you had anything, any kind of Italian food, it was green beans.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Hot,
good.
but amazing.
It's not too salty, is it? Okay. That's always my fear. Like, everything is super salty to me. I just want to keep it flat. But at the same time,
Oh, I was going to say, don't dirty it up. This is weird.
Really?
Oh, the
But you
cake
have a
place.
dishwasher.
I guess there was a cake. Piece of cake.
Well, yeah.
Thanks.
Bread.
did you get to try?
Yes, it was
Okay,
delicious.
okay.
Thank you.
Yum.
This is really good.
I love to cook, but I don't ever recommend cooking anything with garlic or onion. It's
Wow. And how long? You cooked this at 350 for how long?
So 40 minutes covered, and then 20 minutes uncovered.
40.
It just makes number one, make sure that the cheese gets cooked on top, and make sure the noodles are done. So, and they're done, right?
Yeah,
They're not chewy or crunchy or.
No.
I'm impressed.
No, very good.
I just want to make sure they're tough. Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not gonna hurt my
They
feelings.
are not. They're-
We're honest.
Okay.
Wow.
That's how I improve.
$15.
Mm-hmm. Roughly.
For this.
There's no eggs in it.
Yes.
And one
No,
egg.
one egg.
One
Oh, there
egg.
is one egg.
Mhm. In the ricotta, to bind it together, there's one egg.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
I was joking because of the price of eggs.
Oh, I know.
It's
Do
like,
you do lasagna from scratch?
this is really good.
I used to. I used to do a lot of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've made this a vegetarian, just leave out the meat.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
What do you place in instead of a protein?
Really, kind of whatever it is I have handy.
Okay.
Sometimes it's eggplant, zucchini, mushrooms. Yeah. But like the protein, a lot of times your cheese will cover some of the protein. It's not as much protein, obviously, as meat. I've never made one with like soy or that. What is it? Imaginary, not imaginary. A miracle meat or whatever they call it. It tastes like beef, but isn't.
Oh, yeah.
I've tasted some of that. It looks like something different.
Every time I go through Burger King, it's the Impossible Burger.
That's it. That's
I
what
think
I'm
I should
thinking.
get that, and I never do.
I've had one.
It's okay.
It's not bad. It's weird.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it tastes. It just it's an odd texture.
Yeah.
Like you know what beef tastes like, and it's kind of or not taste like, but like what when you eat beef, you kind of get that. But then at the same time, you're like you just know it's not.
really.
Yeah, yeah. Another point. There's more.
This lasagna is amazing.
I usually serve like just a plain green salad.
Well, you're inspiring us all.
You ever make
My oven
this
went out.
up and freeze it and
Yeah,
then
there.
really?
Yeah.
Hopefully Friday.
I do.
Jason and I, he helped me make this one day. And so I put some in my freezer, and we made several dishes that day.
Sure did. Make four.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so this was sitting in my freezer, and I swear it was calling my name. Okay. And it was like candy. I knew the other food was there, and it was all good and luscious. But this one was like, Linda, come eat. Linda, you love this. This is candy, Linda. Yeah.
And you're like, yes, I do love it. Get me.
I know. I had a hard
Yeah,
time.
they did.
Good.
So let's see. That day that you and I went, we went to Kroger, and we took was it $50? And we ended up making what about 40, almost 40 meals.
Wow. Yeah.
We made lasagna, we made beans and chili, and something else.
It was marinara sauce. I had that extra. I made spaghetti.
Oh, cookies. We made those cookies.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
We're gonna make those next week without chunky peanut butter.
Does these probably have a
3 ingredient peanut butter cookies.
For
You ever had those before?
peanut butter sauce.
You want the recipe?
Yeah, what's the reason?
It's a cup of peanut butter, half a cup of white sugar, and an egg. Cook it at 350 for about 7, 8 minutes. They're really no flour. If you have people that have gluten issues, it's the perfect dessert. There's no gluten anywhere.
I got two fast.
Somewhere.
You come across it, but without.
So it was good cake.
Yes.
And then, what I'm going to do, Father Charles, is I'm going to go and I'll type up the recipe for this, and I'll email it to the church, and then Kimberly can send it out.
Yeah, well, we'll post it on
Oh,
Facebook.
okay. Okay.
And we'll also send it out to the parish.
Okay.
Or email.
I'll try to save it in PDF format. That seems to be the easiest
Yeah.
for anybody to print from. I'll do that.
Or we can send it out either way.
Okay.
And if either format, some people can, they have PDF accessibility, some people take off
You need
the
to
Word
drink the
document.
water.
Yes.
That's that quick. I didn't think I should have brought some tea.
Yeah, I think there's some.
Like, I ate too fast.
Anybody want second?
Your ricotta cheese that you're using, is that prepackaged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full fat.
Okay.
Full fat shot. And
I
then,
can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And then all I add is just an egg and just like a little garlics and just seasonings, and that goes in the center. I don't layer it. I put it right in the middle. And yeah.
Stools.
Yep.
Been shipped to this whole time.
Yeah, I have been.
So we'll do the dishes. That's always the hardest part, it seems like.
You know what? That, woo! I'm bad. My apartment.
Our church dishwasher is really
That is amazing.
been a huge part. And we will, just to let you all know, and people who are watching online, that we're still not quite done with our the renovation of our kitchen here. And so we are hoping to be done here in the next month or so. We have to seal the floor and a couple of tiles and things like that, and some issues with our faucets. But we're hoping to have a dedication, a rededication of the kitchen and bless that on a Sunday morning when we have everything ready to go. And so that may be, hopefully maybe online when we do that too as well. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem.
I'm going to turn us off and thank everybody for watching us online. God's blessings.
You do not get into